Lawin Media Network,
bringing to you the most relevant content across all platforms.
Business, legal, politics, health, lifestyle, and entertainment.
Your source for all the news and updates in the greater Houston community from Texas and all over the world.
Get informed and empowered with Lawin Media Network.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Pink Table Talk. I'm your host, Dr. Carly D., a doctorally prepared registered nurse, mentor, educator, professional development specialist, and victims advocate and thriver. This show is produced by Lawin Media Network, and it is available on our YouTube live channel or Facebook Live every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central, 8 o'clock Eastern Time. And we are also available on multiple podcast platforms, including Apple, Spotify, Google, and Amazon. So in honor of Women's History Month, I decided tonight to do a show about intimate partner violence. Many of you have heard that I am a survivor, or how I like to say now, a thriver from intimate partner violence and narcissistic abuse. So tonight I will be talking a little bit more and sharing with you guys more of my story and my journey and how I got out of an abusive and toxic situation. To help me in sharing my story, I have asked Mae De Vera to come on the show with me, and she will be on later today. So let's talk about intimate partner violence and what it is. So let's pull up the statistics on IPV. So intimate partner violence is a type of abuse or aggression that can occur in a romantic relationship. An intimate partner can be a current or a former spouse or dating partner. So IPV can happen with somebody who you have also ended a relationship with recently. About 1 in 4 women and 1 in 10 men in the United States have experienced either sexual violence, physical violence, and or stalking by an intimate partner in their lifetime. 1 in 6 women and 1 in 7 men in the US also have experienced severe physical violence where they may have that may have resulted in an injury or hospitalization or even death from an intimate partner in a lifetime. Go to the next. So some more statistics include sexual violence. So this is any type of sexual activity when there is no consent that has been given. So about 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men in the United States have also experienced sexual violence involving physical contact within their lifetime. Victims of sexual assault have experienced it for the first time, sometimes between the ages of 11 and 17. For females, this is 1 in 3. For males, this is 1 in 4. Before the age of 10, this can occur in females 1 in 5 and males 1 in 4. So these are some quite shocking statistics. Also, about 1 in 11 females and 1 in 15 male high school students in the US have experienced some type of physical dating violence within the past year. And all of these statistics are according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or the CDC. So it's quite shocking. It's quite the epidemic. Intimate partner violence has been considered a health issue, not only just for women, but also for men, and especially for young people and young adults. So let's welcome Mae De Vera, who is going to help me to share my story today.
Hi, Dr. D.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing really good. I'm still getting used to this new do.
Well, I noticed that last week and I just mentioned that to you, right? Like, oh, you did your hair again? There's a word again.
Yeah. Okay, we might have some delays. Okay, there we go. I think we're back on track.
Yep.
Oh, okay, very good. All right. So I know that we've talked before, about my experience. We talked about, how I've survived an abusive situation in the past. We've had some similarities in some of the situations that we've both gone through. I just think it's great for Women's History that we open up and talk about it. I believe there's so many women out here who do struggle with these situations. And the problem with these situations that it often causes shame in the victims and or shame in the survivors, and they don't want to talk about it. But I'm here today and I'm living proof that there is no shame in surviving something so horrible as this. I feel that you can gain a lot of strength from it, and that we can thrive and rebuild our lives and truly come out stronger because of it. So I'm just really happy that I am here and I do have this platform to be able to share my story with others and show them that, it can be done, that you can survive and thrive.
It's actually amazing, Dr. D, that you have this platform where you are able or you choose to share your story with other people because for some it's a weakness on their part and it's not really okay for them to share, otherwise it would be seen as shameful for their past. But however, I stand with you with regard to sharing your story because just like what they say, it's okay to save a life. Even just one life means a lot. Through these
Yeah.
experiences, through this advice that you're giving, that's why I'm very thankful that I met you because I'm learning a lot from you.
Oh, thank you so much. It's such an honor and it's so humbling to hear that, because when I think about myself just 9 years ago or even just 6 years ago, I would have never imagined that the struggles and the things I was dealing with, the challenges, the nights crying, that it could actually one day be used to help somebody. So it really is just a humbling thing to hear. And so I'm so thankful for that.
But anyway, Dr. Dean, now that we're on the topic, um, can you tell me a little bit of the background with regard to your experience during those times? Like, um, would you be able to share with me who was your abuser or how did you meet that person?
Yes. So I met the person that was abusive to me 9 years ago. I met them actually through a mutual friend, just in a very casual way. I would often hang out with my friends and we'd have a great time on the weekends at her house, cooking, making food, inviting other people over. And I met this person, this individual there. And at first, of course, I'm smitten and I'm thinking, wow, this is such a great person. They're so nice, they're so kind, they're so friendly and open. And so I'm thinking, wow, this is great, a great catch for myself. At the time, I was hoping and looking to be in an intimate relationship. I had been single for some time before meeting them. And I was ready to get into a serious relationship. I really wanted some companionship in my life. And so I met this person and we quickly connected. At the time, I didn't think much of it, but I realize now that we kind of moved way too fast. And now, with the knowledge that I do have, I realize that that's a red flag. So, whenever you meet somebody and the relationship quickly escalates and you're spending all your time with them or you're spending all your time talking with them, that's a red flag. And so for me, at the time, I thought it was normal. I said, oh, well, this must be the one, you know. I took it as a sign that we were compatible. But quickly into the relationship, I started seeing signs. I started noticing things that were off. I started noticing his lack of communication wasn't good. I noticed that he had some controlling behaviors. He didn't like when other people looked at me, other men in the street. He didn't like if I walked too far ahead of him, if we were out and about. Um, and then he always wanted me to be very close to him, no matter the social situation. You know, I had to be right there next to him. And so for me, it just was, I thought it was, I honestly was flattered. I was like, oh, he must really like me. You know, this must be a sign that, you know, he really thinks I'm a prized, you know, possession. But what I didn't realize is that these controlling behaviors were signs of like insecurity, and they would later escalate into what I later saw as abuse.
I can totally relate to that, Dr. D. Like, when someone is taking care of me, or like I thought was taking care of me in that way, wherein he's getting possessive, like he doesn't really want you to you to share with other people. I feel like I'm going to be flattered as well. Like, oh, I must be this precious for him. But as I grow older, I learn to realize that there's a difference between um true love or just being possessive or like insecurity itself. So just like what they say, Dr. D, that love is not supposed to give you butterflies in your stomach. You're not supposed to feel that way. You're supposed to feel calmness. So that's what I always try to put in my mind whenever, I meet someone.
Yes, it's so true. You know, what I thought was this thrill and this high adrenaline feeling, it actually is our body almost in a way telling us there's something wrong with this person. um,
Agree.
yes. So, you know, our body has its own way of kind of naturally reacting to people. It kind of has a sense of itself. So we can kind of confuse fear or our body kind of being afraid of something. And we can confuse that with that same feeling of attraction and of love. And it's really our body recognizing an abusive pattern, especially if we have a history of abuse in our childhood. What we feel with somebody when we meet them as a connection could actually just be our own body recognizing a history of abuse, and so we connect and we can relate on those levels, which is quite scary, you know. So now when I see people and I'm like, oh, I feel really. Wait a second, is this is this a good feeling or is this a bad feeling? Is this person toxic, abusive? Hold on, I gotta step back a little bit first.
I
But
gotta
yes,
reflect first.
yes, so those two feelings can kind of feel the same. And so that's why we have to take things slow with people. We really have to truly get to know them so that way we can kind of separate out, is this, you know, our normal, you know, hormonal in love thing, or is our body recognizing an abusive pattern?
Well, I couldn't agree more with regard to that, Dr. D.
Thank you so much. So we're going to continue diving into my story, but we're going to go to our first commercial break of the evening. So stay tuned for more Pink Table Talk with Dr. Carly D. Welcome back, everybody, to Pink Table Talk. Tonight, we're talking about my story of survival through an abusive situation. To help me tonight is Mae De Vera, and yay! I love that you're wearing pink. You know, I always tell my guests to wear pink, and I love it.
That's why I when I saw you earlier, I thought to myself, "Oh, did I wear pink or should I wear something different color?" Because I thought you're not wearing pink, but it's a lighter version of it's a light pink.
Yes, it's a very light pink, and then the lighting doesn't help. But oh, I have a full wardrobe full of pink. I have a whole pink section of all kinds of stuff.
This is only like the second pink clothes that I have.
Well, it looks good on you. I tell everybody looks good in pink.
Thank you, Dr. D. But anyway, I have a question with regard to what we talked about before the break.
Yeah.
Um, what are the signs? Because you already experienced abuse during your childhood, or correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
But what were the signs that you were able to determine that, oh, this is wrong? This is just a repetition of what I had in the past or what I experienced in the past. So, what were those instances that made you think that way?
Yes. So, like I said, at first it was very subtle. At first, I didn't even recognize that these were controlling or abusive behaviors. At first, I thought, oh, this is just somebody that really likes me and they're afraid of losing me, you know? And so I started to kind of make this own narrative and excuse these behaviors in my head. But what I really started to notice was the criticisms and the put me downs. And so when I was growing up, in my family, I experienced that too. And so for me, I said, gee, this person is always putting me down. This person is always saying, such negative, backhanded comments. But then if I ask them about it or question it, would be, oh, I'm just joking, or, oh, I didn't mean that, or you didn't hear me correctly, or you misunderstand me. And so it took years, though, of going through like therapy and reading articles to know that that was called gaslighting. And so, yes, so gaslighting is where you can see something, hear something, you experience something, and they'll make an excuse about it or tell you it didn't happen. And so for me, for a long time, with the put me downs and the comments, about my race, this person was a different race than me. He would talk about Black women in a derogatory manner. He would say such nasty things about just me personally. And I thought, gee, if this person is supposed to love me, why are they talking so bad about me? Why do they think so negatively towards me? But then on the other hand, they would be warm and saying they love me. I said, it just didn't feel right. And so that's where I kind of noticed that pattern. Growing up, I had a lot of teased a lot. I was made fun of a lot. I had bad, nicknames and things like that. Coming from a place where I expected love. So for me, that's where I talk about that pattern. It's like we don't actively seek it, but sometimes we end up finding ourselves repeating the patterns of our past. And so for me, what felt familiar was somebody putting me down, somebody talking bad about me, and then also showing some sort of love. And so I didn't realize I was used to that pattern. I thought that was normal.
But with regard to that, how long did the abuse last?
Um,
And how
uh,
are you able to get away from that kind of situation? Because it takes a lot of courage to do that.
yes, thank you. So it started, I would say from 2016, it started, like I said, with the put downs. It escalated into physical, emotional, and sexual abuse. When I left, it then changed into legal and financial abuse. Unfortunately, even to this day, there's still an element of legal and financial abuse occurring because we do happen to share children. We have children in common. With these cycles of abuse, they don't really end. Sometimes they change. They can change the form. So we can go from where we're living with them and, cohabitating with them, and then it can change to something else. Oftentimes, the abuse gets worse when the victim wants to leave, and we call that post-separation abuse. This is where a lot of women get murdered. A lot of women who are packing their bags in the middle of the night, they're trying to leave. These are the fights that end with somebody dead. And it's horrifying to think. But this is the most scariest time for women. That's why it's important that you have a safety plan, that you have resources, that you have a community, and that you reach out for help before you leave. For myself, I did have a community. I reached out to friends, I reached out to family, and then I found community groups that were able to help me to safely leave.
I'm glad that you were able to do that, Dr. D. And I'm also glad because I'm an avid, audience of yours here in Pink Table Talk. That's why I was also able to learn that, oh, we have communities like that exist. They exist. All you need to do is, to really seek help, and then you will be able to receive help from the people that you did not thought that will be able to help you because they're strangers. But sometimes those strangers are the people who can really help you through whatever you're experiencing.
Yes. And one thing I want to let women know is seeking help can feel scary. And oftentimes there's shame related to it. Thinking back to season 1, episode 2, when we had Sarah on, she spoke about how she was a professional woman, but she had to go to a shelter. She had to reach out to people for help. And people were like, but aren't you a nurse? Don't you make the XYZ money? Why do you need help? So the same for me. At the time I was working on my doctorate. I was, otherwise a successful nurse. But I had a child and another one on the way when I left. So I was in a very, very vulnerable position. And I had to reach out for help. I'm always was the strong, tough woman. You know, I was the woman that could do it all and be it all. You know, I was the woman who everybody came to when they had problems or issues and they wanted to lean on my shoulder and ask me, Carly, what's your advice? What do you do? So for me, it was different. I never been in a place where I actually needed help, where I had to be the one looking for support, advice, financial assistance. I had never had to ask anybody for money before. But when you're in a position choosing between your safety, you have to do that.
I think that's the sad part of being an independent woman, because people really look up to you as someone that they can rely on. They don't really see you as someone who will be able to, who will ask them to be that if you can rely on them. So I think, personally, as an independent woman, whenever I have problems and I want to, there are times that I want to ask people for help, like, I just want a hug, can you come over? I can't do that because I know to myself that they're also experiencing problems, or they are dealing with their own problems. But yeah, I think that's just the sad part of being an independent woman in general, or
Yeah.
being a tough woman in general.
It's so true. You know, my friends even were looking at me like, oh, girl, you got this. Like, you're going to be so fine. Like, everything is going to be so good, you know? And my family and friends were all thinking like it was just going to be a 1, 2, 3 thing where, okay, you're away. Everything is going to be wonderful now, you know, problem solved. But unfortunately, it wasn't that easy. This individual decided to then engage in what is known as legal abuse. So for those of you who don't know what legal abuse is, it's similar to the post-separation abuse. It's an abuse that occurs when the victim leaves the abusive partner, and because now they don't have control over that partner in the home, they use cops, they'll make fake police reports about you, they'll drag you to court, they'll file multiple court petitions, a lot of times frivolous and made up allegations against you. They may even accuse you of being the abuser. And the person that I left, he did that too. He said, no, she was the abuser. Yeah.
Oh,
Even though,
wow.
yeah, oh, they do that all the time. And so what it does is it extends the court proceedings. So now you got this he said, she said situation. The lawyers and judges don't know who to believe, who's telling the truth here. You know, even though I had the police reports, the pictures, the injuries, you know, different things like that, they still were like, who really did what here? And so it becomes, it's just re-traumatizing for the person that's leaving, because you want to be done with the situation. You're ready to move forward, but now you're stuck in lengthy court proceedings. You're also, if you share any children with them, they will fight for custody. Even if when you were with them, they had no interest in the children. But now that you're gone, oh, this is something they can kind of use as a bargaining chip. So for many survivors, oh yeah, absolutely. For a lot of women and men, they experience this type of legal abuse, and it's expensive. So then it also becomes financial abuse, because hiring lawyers, the retainer fees are insane when it comes to family courts. You could be tens of thousands of dollars to pay to defend either your name, defend your children. If you have professional licenses and, you know, they're making these false allegations against you, you have to fight them in court. So it just adds to what you've already experienced and what you've already been through. And it just, like I said, it re-traumatizes the victim. You know, for them, it was the hardest step just to leave, to get out of that home or that situation. And now here they are in a lengthy court system battle that they don't understand.
This is a very, very interesting topic, and I'm really looking forward because, I have a lot of questions in my head, Dr. D. So I hope that you are more than prepared to answer all of these questions.
Oh, absolutely. But we're going to go ahead and take our second break of the evening, but we'll be back with more Pink Table Talk with Dr. Carly D.
In a world filled with fleeting moments, there's beauty waiting to be captured. My name is Christian, and I specialize in immortalizing your most precious memories, from elegant weddings to vibrant events and timeless portraits. I'm here to make every moment unforgettable. Let me tell your story through the lens. Contact me today and let's create magic together.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Pink Table Talk. The show is produced by Lawin Media Network, and we film live every Wednesday at 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern. You can watch us on Facebook Live, our YouTube Live channel, and over 18 different podcast platforms, including Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and Google. So tonight, I'm in the hot seat, and I'm talking about my story of survival and thriving from a narcissistically abusive relationship and a toxic situation.
All right, my next question would be, are you ready for my next question, Dr. D?
I'm ready, May.
All right, but my next question would be, what made you stay? Like, during your stay with that abuser, did you ever help them? Like, for example, did you point out that, oh, you're getting abusive, this is not normal? Did you try to point that out?
Yes, absolutely. Just the type of person that I am, I have a big heart and I want to help everybody. And typically, unfortunately, we are the type of people that abusers seek out. So for me, being in nursing, being a caregiver, I'm always trying to help people. Growing up, my father, he was a counselor for people who were addicted to drugs. He was always helping others. So I grew up knowing and feeling like I should need to help everybody. What I quickly realized early on was that this person had addictive behaviors and addictive habits. And so at first I tried to help them to get help for their addictions. But they denied it. They said they didn't have a problem. I remember even staging an intervention with my close friends to help them get off of their substances. But they still were in denial. So I had decided to leave that situation. But then I found out I was pregnant with my first child. So I stayed and tried to make it work so that we could be a family, which a lot of women, unfortunately, we do. I grew up with a two-parent home. I had both mom and dad. So I knew how important it was to have both mom and dad. So for a while, things were great. We had the news of a new baby. We were excited. Everybody was happy for us. Everybody said, well, he'll change because he's going to be a father. That will be the motivation he needs to get therapy, to seek help, to stop, abusing substances. So even for myself, I really thought maybe this was the change or the turning point we needed. But unfortunately, it was not.
Here in the Philippines, that's actually, I think wherever you are, that's the same mindset that women usually have. That it is important to keep your family intact no matter what happens, no matter how abusive it gets. You have to stay for your family, but If you're going to ask me regarding my opinion on that matter, for me, are you still going to stick with the thought of having a complete family even if you're not happy anymore? Even if you don't feel the love anymore, if you don't feel the security anymore? So, not only for yourself, but also for your children. Because if your husband could hurt you, what more for your children, right? So, there's always a possibility that your husband could hurt both of your children. So,
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And for a lot of women, unfortunately, becoming pregnant is when the abuse escalates. And it is the most dangerous time for pregnant women. Statistics show that most pregnant women are actually, excuse me, their life is ended by their intimate partner when they find out they're pregnant. Yes. Hmm. And for me, becoming pregnant was the first time I had the physical abuse began.
what do you think is the reason behind that? Like, why is it getting more abusive during the pregnancy part?
It comes with a sense of they're no longer the center of attention. They're no longer, yes. So now instead of you focusing on meeting their needs, you're focusing on this new life that's growing inside of you. And you're also getting all this attention. A pregnant woman is beautiful, you're glowing, everybody's so happy. When they see you, they want to greet you and your belly. you
That's
know,
kind
you,
of sad
yeah,
because you
unfortunately.
made what if you made a child together, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, this happens. And, you're getting a baby shower, all eyes are on you. It's no longer about them anymore. And so that triggers a lot of their rage, their anger. A lot of abusive people suffer from narcissistic abuse personality. And as Coach D talked about, they love to be the center of attention. They love everybody to tend to their needs. Nobody else matters but them. So for a woman becoming pregnant, that kind of takes that spotlight from them.
So, moving on to the next question that I have in my mind, how did you leave, Dr. D?
Yes, it took a few times. And, statistics say it takes about 7 times for,
7 times.
statistically, it takes 7 times for a victim to leave their abuser. And that's when you get a lot of friends and family who'll be like, oh, she's just going to go back. Oh, okay, sure, she's going to leave this time. And sometimes you lose those friendships and family because it takes a while. It takes time because victims are often guilted about their behavior. The abuser will make them feel like it's their fault. Oftentimes they'd be like, well, I hit you because you said this. Well, if you wasn't so stupid, or if you didn't do this thing, I wouldn't have hurt you. And like I said, the gaslighting, they're like, well, I never said that. I never did that. What are you talking about? These things never happened. So for victims, they're in such their state of mind is so confused. They're so weak, either physically and mentally at the time. There could be ties, like I said, with children or financially. There's a lot of things that could be keeping them there. And it's not that easy to leave all the time. That's why I said you have to connect with your family, connect with your resources. If you have no friends or family to support you, check out the community resources. There's domestic violence hotline and even text lines. So you can text if it's not safe to talk, but you've got to reach out and get some help. And leaving is the best for those situations.
I agree with that, Dr. D. Actually, based on my experience as well, although it's not that severe when it comes to relationship, I know that there was cheating on the part of on my ex boyfriend. So despite all that, I still stayed. So I still protected the 1 year and a half of our relationship, thinking that oh, it's such a pity to, end the relationship when we are already on this kind of situation. So, there's a lot of cheating incidents, and my friends almost they threaten me that they're going to cut ties with me if I'm not going to wake up in this kind of delusion that you know that we're still going to be okay despite the cheating part, because it's a trauma that no matter how many
Mhm.
times you forgive this person, it will
Yes.
always come back to you, that you will always think that, oh, maybe he's cheating again. So yep, with regard to that, I can totally relate. And
It's
I know that
true.
a lot of viewers can totally relate to what we're talking about now, Dr. D.
Yes, it's hard to leave. We build what we think is called love and connection. But after speaking with Coach D and really doing my research on it, we actually are not building a love connection. We're building what's called a trauma bond. And so,
Oh,
yes. Yes.
that's like Eureka.
Yes. And so it's that trauma bond that keeps us there. It's we think, oh, this is this great connection with this person. Why can't I leave? Why do I feel so strong to them? And it is that trauma, and it's that cycle. It's like the cycle of abuse. They'll do something abusive, they'll do something hurtful, then they'll fake apologize, do a bunch of nice things. So you think, okay, they're changing. They're they're capable. They can love, they can be kind. And so that's what kind of keeps victims stuck, is that these cycles, it's the tension building, active abuse, then they go back through the love bombing. And that's what keeps victims there. And that also occurs with cheating also, because after the cheating, they apologize. They might bring you some flowers, some chocolate. And you think,
Yeah.
oh, okay, this is it.
He got me. He got me through chocolates and flowers. Ah, dang it.
Yeah.
But anyway, I have a question
Oh
with
yeah.
regard
Whenever
to love
my
bombing.
friends tell
Mhm.
me, oh yes,
With regard to your previous episode with Coach D,
yes,
she mentioned about love
yes.
bombing. Is there any instance that you consider love bombing as a good thing?
No, because it's fake, and they're
Oh,
trying to elicit out of you a response. Yeah, it's not real, and that's not the real them. When they are being abusive towards you, that's the real them. But the love bombing is just, it's like a transaction. I'm going to give you these things in return for your loyalty, obedience, and to control you. So no, it's not a good thing. Like, sure, you might enjoy some chocolates or jewelry, whatever they give, and even attention. Yeah. But it's all fake, and it all comes with a string attached.
that's why I prefer to be an independent woman who doesn't rely on any man.
Yes. And it's we all want love, we all want connection, and it's a good thing. It's good to seek that out, but we have to learn how to seek out healthy connection and healthy relationships. And that comes with time, learning oneself, self-awareness, and doing that soul searching. We look at TV shows and we think those are examples of love. I always think of our generation. We grew up with Disney, happily ever after. She met her prince, happily ever after. That's all we heard. We never knew what happened after.
You know, Disney, if
um,
you're watching this, make sure to create one that is totally
yes,
relatable in the present times.
Yes, they don't talk about what happens after. Like, okay, now he doesn't want to help around the house. He's lazy. He's mean. We don't talk about that. And so we need to start preparing people at a young age, even not just for that happily ever after story, but to seek true, meaningful, and long lasting connections with people.
I agree.
So this has been wonderful. I'm really enjoying this conversation tonight. But we're going to take our last commercial break of the evening. So everybody stay tuned for more Pink Table Talk.
Join us for a captivating new series where Lawin sits down with the trailblazers of the music and entertainment world. Discover the stories behind the faces and voices that shape our culture and community.
We will bring you exclusive interviews with industry legends and rising stars. Behind the scenes insights and get a peek into the creative processes and personal journeys. Artists and performers and their upcoming shows and events.
Stay tuned for more updates and sneak peeks. Follow us on social media and subscribe to our channel.
Welcome back, everybody. And today, as our last weekend, Wednesday in Women's History Month, I'm talking about my story of surviving abuse in a toxic situation. I have Mae De Vera here, who has joined me tonight, and she's been so lovely, the lovely co-host.
Thank you for considering me as your co-host.
Yes, thank you. I love having you on. You're welcome anytime.
All right.
So we'll continue on.
Yep. I think I put you on the spot for too long now, Dr. D. So I'm going to limit my question now into two. So the first of the two questions that I have in my mind is, what lessons did you learn from this experience of yours?
Oh, yeah, it taught me a lot. At first, I had to deal with the hurt, the anger, and the pain from the situation. But through, just reading self-help books, going to support groups, going to individual therapy, I truly learned that you got to really take time to get to know people. Do not rush any relationship. Truly get to know who they are, become their friend first, try to find out, what are they like when they're angry? What are they like when they're in a situation where they have to express patience? What are their morals and their values? What was their upbringing like? A lot of times we see someone, we meet them, and we rush right in, and we look past all the red flags. But I tell people now, slow down, really get to know somebody. And when you start to see those red flags, don't go painting them orange or green and telling yourself, oh, this will change.
Now that you mentioned that.
Because it won't. It will only get worse.
Now that you mentioned that, I have a suitor actually that for almost a year now. So I'm going to, cut this clip and then tell him that, okay, you should wait. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes, you have to wait. We have to go slow. Yes, go slow. And then also what I learned, excuse me, was if you have any unresolved issues, whether that's with a past relationship, any unresolved issues with your parents or your childhood, work on yourself. Work on uncovering and resolving those issues, because those issues are actually what is going to make you more vulnerable to be in an abusive situation. because we're not self-aware. We don't know ourselves and we're not healed. If you're not healed, you're going to find other damaged and unhealed people. So take the time, get to know you, fix you, work on yourself, get that healing. And when you're a complete and whole person, you will also find somebody who is complete and whole, who will complement you. And you two can be a dynamic force for this work.
And I think it is also important for women out there, or also men, that you should learn how to really love yourself or how to value yourself, because that way, even if you attract abusers or people who has narcissistic personalities, you will learn to yourself that these people are not for me, because I love myself, I value myself, I won't tolerate this kind of disrespect or any type of negative coming from other people.
Yes, it's so true. And Coach D said something that was just very insightful the last time she was on the show. She said, "You're going to still meet these narcissistic people." She said, "They're going to still be, yeah, they're still out there. You're going to come across them if you're out there still dating." But she said, but with that self-discovery, with healing yourself, you'll be able to recognize it early and make the right moves to get away from those people without getting involved with them again. And so I think that's important. Oftentimes we think, okay, I did the work. I went to therapy, I read the books. Now everybody I meet, they're going to be healthy. No. All it does is it gives you a new view. It's like putting on glasses. Whereas once you were blind, you can now see. You're like, ooh, okay, that's a toxic person. Ooh, that's a narcissist right there. Okay, let me go this way.
Right. Now, as
So
for my
it's important to know that, and yes.
as
And
for the
for
million
me,
dollar
at this point
question,
in my life,
mm-hmm. I
mhm.
know, at this point of your life, I think
Go ahead.
that's where my next or million dollar question would be, with regard to your statement. At this point of your life, what could be your advice to, you know to person or women, married or not, who are experiencing the same thing? The biggest advice that you could give.
Yeah, I would tell them get out. There is life on the other end. It may be hard, it may be tough, but it's worth it for yourself, your self-esteem, your own safety, and for your life, and for the lives of your children. If you do share children with any abuser, it's worth it. Get out. And I'm living proof that you can survive and thrive. You can have a better life, a much more meaningful life. One of my motivations was my daughters, was my children. And I said to myself, I don't want them to see their mom being mistreated. I don't want them to see this and think this is love. And so for me, that was the final stake in the ground. I said, that's it. And so now my children do see that they have a strong mama, not without blemish. Before I felt like I was this formidable woman, this woman who was unstoppable. But now, having survived this, I realize you can have some scars, you can have some blemishes, but you could still rebuild and become stronger and better than ever. And so for that, I truly feel grateful for this journey. I feel such light and love in my heart for others. I have more compassion for people. And I've given back by helping other women in these situations, you know, through Safe Families for Children. I advocate, I educate, we host webinars, we teach them about legal resources. And so I feel grateful. And it's funny to say that I could feel grateful for having survived something so terrible, but I do. Because without that, I wouldn't be able to help others that are unseen. Many victims in these situations, they're not seen. The world doesn't care. We say, why did they stay? Just leave, just go. We think it's so easy. We think they do it to themselves. But I'm here to say they need help. They need support. Show them empathy and compassion and kindness. And it can mean the world of difference for them. So that is my message for the world.
All I can say is just wow. Wow, Dr. D, like you are such an amazing person. You are an amazing woman, a great mother to your children for choosing to, for choosing to be brave, for choosing to let go of that abuser. So thank you for choosing yourself. Thank you for being here, for talking to me, for enlightening me, for enlightening our audience here in Lawin Media Network, specifically your audience here in Pink Table Talk. I'm so happy that I'm one of the recipients of those knowledge and advices that you're giving. So I'm really honored.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate you for being on the show today and talking about this very, very difficult topic. But I thank you all. And I thank you to my audience for tuning in every Wednesday and for hearing my story. And thank you for allowing me to share my journey with you all. Next week, we'll be back with Yasmin Duncan. So be sure to tune in live on Wednesday at 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern on Lawin Media Network, either through our YouTube Live, Facebook Live, Twitch TV, or 18 different podcast platforms. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight and have a good night. Bye-bye.